Hey team, it's Kylie Ryan from My Mind Coach, and today I want to talk about neutrality, the concept of neutrality or the philosophy of neutrality and power. And so the benefits of this is if you find yourself getting reactive or you are overly attracted or attached to a person or a thing or an identity or an idea, um, or overly repulsed from something, a thing, a person, an identity, an idea, then that can absolutely create blind spots and reactivity and really limit your options, your creativity, your potential and power to create something, right? It really stifles our freedom and ends up putting us in a thought box where we can only think in one particular way and we're blinded to the thing that we are repulsed by or repelled from. So what are we talking about here with this concept of neutrality? We're talking about being in the middle zone, the middle path between attraction and aversion, right? The moving towards something or the moving away from something, or in simple, physical terms, the pleasure or the pain, right? Something that we want or something that we're moving away from or that we find painful. So we can see this philosophy or this concept in lots of different iterations and versions through different cultures and through history. So from the yin yang symbol of Chinese, ancient Chinese philosophy, to the tantric principles of Hindu philosophy, and the merging of masculine and feminine energies and principles, to the Buddhist middle path, to one of my favorites, the Russian philosopher Vadim Zeland and his idea of the pendulums of emotion. And what I really love about this idea of the pendulums is that it very easily describes what we kind of feel when we're in that space of the opposite of neutrality. So it's almost like you can be in neutrality or you can be in the pendulum. And when you are overly attracted or repulsed from something, it immediately sets the emotion and the energy moving, right? And it engages other people who then play in the pendulum with you. And the more that we engage in the pendulum, the more that it feeds the pendulum. We find people to see as enemies and people to see as allies, and the people who are with us, and we're all against those people. And God knows the Facebook algorithm and the social media algorithms have been feeding unconsciously, maybe not intentionally, feeding that polarization of ideology, because people are then being fed content and clicking on content that reinforces their particular worldview and demonizes the opposite worldviews, and that's happening at both ends of the scale. So we're living in a world where the duality and the polarization is quite intense at the moment. It's really coming up quite strongly for us to see, for us to be aware of, and of course that can end in violence, in war, it can end in genocide, right? And so there's all sorts of reasons why one would want to have the power of being able to find neutrality within oneself, right? If we want to be the change we want to see in the world, then we can't say, oh, over there, those people are wrong and I'm right over here, because that's just feeding the duality and feeding the polarization. So from an NLP perspective, we have the principle or the presupposition that the person with the most flexibility of behavior will control the system. The person with the most flexibility of behavior will control the system. And the beautiful thing about neutrality is that it gives you flexibility. It's like the baseline for flexibility. If you think that there's, black over here and white over here conceptually and all these shades of gray in the middle, that, if you're okay with the black and you're okay with the white and you're okay with all of the shades of gray, then you're not overly attracted over here, you're not overly attracted over there. You can stand in the center of the allness and be at peace, right? And so when you are in the center of the allness, that's what we're speaking to with the concept of neutrality. And so a lot of people that are in this group and people that will be watching this video are also spiral practitioners. And so this concept of neutrality is very much embedded within the spiral clearing technology. So, we're clearing constantly. I'm okay with this. I'm okay with not this. I'm okay with being this. I'm okay with not being this. And from a practical sense, when we're coaching someone or working with someone using this kind of tech, and these are like healing transformational technologies, when we think about, the how-to on a practical sense, it helps us to clear reactivity, clear jealousy, shift blaming others, shift finger pointing, and shift this sense of, one of the basic coaching 101s is you can either be at cause or you can be at effect. And when you are at effect, you are looking at other people or other experiences or the other things as having the power, and you are at the effect of those things. And so that is not neutral, right? That's not neutral. You're seeing that someone else has the power and I don't have the power. Whereas when we can start to step into neutrality from an emotional standpoint within ourselves, we can start to find the power within to see, oh, I can be the cause of my reality. I can be the cause of making a change to my situation, right? And so being okay with and loosening up our grip or our emotional reactivity around the things that we are overly attracted to or overly repulsed by or averse from allows us so much flexibility and so much freedom and so much stillness and so much emotional space, right? Emotional space to just think clearly, And so what we find, because, as you guys know, I've been coaching people for a long time around these types of concepts. And so it's interesting that your greatest growth is often in the opposite side. Like if someone's very detail oriented, for instance, their greatest growth, and they're like really like caught up in the details and really great at the details, their greatest growth, that person's greatest growth is going to be allowing themselves to start to notice and become aware of and think in a big picture type of frame, right? Detail to big picture. And someone who's very big picture, they might look down on the details and go, oh, details, schmetails, I'm the visionary, I don't need to do the details. And that person who is attracted to the big picture and comfortable with the big picture and adverse from the details, their greatest growth is going to be allowing themselves to find that middle path between the big picture and the details and being able to stretch their capacity to also handle the details, right? And that doesn't mean that they need to become the detail person, but they need to just be okay with having that concept or thinking in a detailed way. And this can go across every single possible meta program, from optimism to pessimism, from black and white thinking to shades of grey thinking. So there's all sorts of different ways that we can start to stretch our mental capacity to hold the opposites, right? To hold the opposites and be okay with standing in the center. And this then points back to very deep hermetic or kind of magical esoteric principles of the paradox, right? That most truths exist inside a paradox of it's not just one thing, it's not just the other thing, it's both. It's all about me and it's also all about you, and it's not about either of us, right? There's often the deepest truths exist inside a paradox. And the more that we can be okay with something being contradictory to something else and it not kind of frazzling our mental hardware or our nervous system and emotional hardware, the more we can be at peace. and the more easily we can navigate through the world with power. So from a practical kind of coach perspective, how do we use this and what are some of the things that show up? So when we're clearing for I'm okay with this, let's say, take a really general common example, something like I'm okay with making money, for instance. I'm okay with making money. I'm okay with not making money. And so you might think, to the untrained eye, you might think, why would you want to be okay with not making money, right? And what benefit could you possibly get from becoming more okay with not making money? Well, this is the interesting thing, because a lot of the times the emotions that we're carrying and the baggage and the stories that we're carrying are not actually about this present moment. They're about the stories that we're telling ourselves about the future or that we're carrying from the past. So if someone says, I'm okay with making money, a lot of times if they have money issues, they won't be okay with making money. And maybe there might be guilt around making money, or shame, or low self-esteem, or unworthiness, or a fear of someone else resenting them that might come up around just being okay with making money or creating money or receiving money. On the opposite side, once you're okay with the making money, with the kind of the positive side of it, then we want to be okay with the negative side of it too. And the reason why we want to become okay with the opposite or the inverse or the negative, and I'm saying negative more from a magnetic sense, or like, for those of you who are old enough, remembering a picture negative, that's the opposite colors. It's not bad, it's just the opposite, right? The positive and the negative from a polarity sense, not from a moralistic good-bad sense. So we want to be okay with the negative. I'm okay with not making money, the reverse of it, or the inverse of it, because that helps to flush out any nervous system tension that we might be holding from the times that we didn't make money, or the times that we weren't able to, bring in the money that we wanted, or whatever that negative thing is, right? And so we can clear then that's about making peace with the past. Like, I'm okay with not making money. Oh, yeah, okay. Or I could see the benefits in the future taking some time off from my business, and maybe I'm not making money in that moment, right? So being okay with both the making money and the not making money, or being okay with, I'm okay with being in a relationship, I'm okay with not being in a relationship, I'm okay with having a child, I'm okay with not having a child, I'm okay with getting divorced, I'm okay with not getting divorced. And so whatever that particular, whatever topics that you feel an emotional charge around, it is absolutely worth learning, if you're not already spiral trained, learning the self-clearing tool, the muscle testing methodology, and starting to shift that emotional tension. Byron Katie's The Work is another method that points to and leads us down the path towards neutrality. The turnaround statements from, who would you be without this? What is the opposite of that statement? Is the turnaround phrase is helping to bring us back to neutrality. John DeMartini's method is all about balancing polar opposites, right? Getting all the good qualities about someone and noticing how you own those good qualities, then noticing all the bad qualities about someone and noticing how you own all of those qualities too. And so the most potent healing and empowerment work has some element of neutrality principles or neutralizing principles, because that's the key to unhooking emotional drama. That's the key to unhooking emotional tension and creating more flexibility of thought, more peace in the nervous system with a whole range of possibilities or situations that you might find yourself in. And then it allows you greater flexibility to move forward. A lot of times too with clients, the person that triggers them the most, or they come in either being jealous of or being resentful of or being frustrated by, like, oh, that person over there, they're such a narcissist or they're such a show-off. I'd never be like that. That trait that the person is resentful of, maybe it's the confidence or the putting yourself out there. Oftentimes that person, that's the medicine that they need. The very trait that they're resentful of and they're adverse to is the piece that is going to bring them the greatest gift and the greatest transformation. I remember saying to someone just the other day, hey, maybe it might actually benefit you to have a little homeopathic dose of narcissism, right? Of what you call narcissism, what you're calling in your mind narcissism, in a homeopathic dose just starts to exhibit itself as confident. And so if someone is looking at someone else and going, oh, they're a narcissist and I'm an empath and I'm not like a narcissist, oh no, then they may not be standing up for themselves. They may not be putting themselves first. And so they could do with a little bit of that self-centeredness in order to balance out where they are overly selfless, right? So it's noticing, where are you out of balance, right? Where are you out of balance? Where is your client out of balance? And having this principle in the back of your mind becomes what we call in the academy an insight lens, right? It becomes an insight lens to go, oh, where is that person in a pendulum of reactivity? Where is that person in a pendulum of drama? Where are they kind of leaning so much over here that they're not seeing all of the things over there? And how can I, through questions, through reframes, through clearing, through hypnosis, through whatever methods you use, how can I help them to become more comfortable with the things that are over there in their blind spot, right? Because a lot of the things that are over there in their blind spot, they just have unconsciousness around them. And there's often, maybe there's some trigger from childhood, or maybe there's some past trauma from passed down through generations. Who knows? But allowing yourself to come back into neutrality around all the the things that you get triggered by or emotionally flustered by, and then allowing or being kind of mindful of what are the places where your clients get emotionally flustered or stressed out or triggered, and how can you use the tools that you have at your disposal to help them come back into the center. And I often think about, just as a little kind of how-to symbolic tip, you might find, use your symbol of choice, whichever one speaks to you. There's tantric symbols, there's Merkaba, there's yin yang, there's, lots of different, there's the Sri Yantra. There's lots of different symbols of the integration of polarities, or the integration of opposites, the integration of masculine and feminine. So I like the yin yang symbol because of the flowiness of it. So I just imagine myself standing on a giant yin-yang symbol, right? And standing with one foot on the black and one foot on the white, and like with both legs firmly grounded in the opposites, and holding my strength and steadiness in the center of those opposites. And symbolically, that activates some unconscious programming to help you to actually stand in the center of these opposite concepts, whatever they might be within your life. So that's a hypnotic visualization, a symbolic resource that I offer to clients quite often, and I find it's really powerful and potent. So you might take a minute and do some power posing and imagine yourself on a symbol like that, if you'd like to. And so let me know in the comments below, what are your awarenesses around neutrality? What are some of the things that have shown up for you with clients? One last piece is, sometimes the I'm okay with the thing and I'm okay with not the thing. Often there can be hidden hooks. Often there can be hidden hooks that is in the negative or the polarity, the inverse, that you wouldn't think to bring into a coaching session, or you wouldn't think to name, right? Or the client wouldn't think to name. So it might be, like I had a breakthrough session with one of my private clients just the other night, and we did some clearing, and it turned out that there was one piece where, oh yeah, it was, what showed up was, it would be if I was fully self-expressed, there would be not enough repression. There would be not enough self-repression. And so this speaks to and points to, and it ended up having like a beautiful, tearful, huge emotional release for this client, which is brilliant. But what it points to is the ways that our nervous system or our mind or our unconscious or our self-identity becomes acclimatized to a certain amount of limitation, right? It can become acclimatized to a certain amount of struggle or a certain amount of suffering. And it's just like, better the devil you know, right? And so noticing the places where you can get acclimatized to struggle or feel like, oh, we're the battlers or we're the ones that are kind of hard done by. And there's almost like a badge of honor or a pride or an identification or a tribe that starts to happen that then keeps you locked in that sense of that repression or that limitation. So that's a part of the reason why people end up fighting for their limitations, right? Why people end up going, no, it's like, this is a problem. This is my problem. This really is a problem and I can't get out of it. And so people end up fighting for their limitations because unconsciously that's what they're acclimatized to. And so this noticing of I'm okay with the positive and I'm okay with the negative can often flush out the places where our own nervous system is hooked into our problems, right? Is hooked into and gaining, in psychology we call it secondary gain, right? What's the secondary gain you're getting from holding on to that primary problem? And so that's a part of some of the underpinnings that allows us to loosen up the deep unconscious stuff that keeps people stuck and take those handbrakes off, let go of the anchors, let go of the weights that are holding people down and help them really set themselves free and into exponential growth. So I think that's all I had to say on neutrality. I hope that's been of service. Let me know in the comments below what you took from this video, what you learned, what did you love, what did you learn, what are your experiences around this? Have you been working with, balancing opposites or coming back into neutrality in your practice with yourself or with your clients? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, if you want to learn more about how you can learn more of these insight lenses and start to really deepen your skill mastery to become an even more transformational coach, reach out and talk to someone from my team and we'll have a chat to you about how you could join our amazing team of super coaches inside the Academy. Hope this has been of service. I will talk to you guys soon. Peace out.